Hi, Nick Collier here, and this is my shop. Come join me. We'll have some fun.
Well, okay, here we are again, and we've gotten it welded, although it was a absolutely piece of shit of a weld job. Turned out that my gauge had gotten stuck, and it wasn't enough, wasn't letting enough gas into the MIG welder, and so there was a lot of porosity. But, you know, hey, it's a weld and it's reasonably okay. Hey. Okay, and because my lathe has V-beds, and this one and this one are two different heights, there's no way of figuring out how to get a nice level bed going. What I've done is I've taken a couple of lathe bits that are the same height, and then I've dropped in a what is it called? I don't know. I just got over the flu, so my brain is absolutely not working, even less than normal. So anyhow, we'll do it and talk about it less. How's that? So a little square up here to find my center, and I think we've got a nice center line going there. Let me get some glasses. And what I'm going to do is mark, I mean, we really want to be somewhere close to that line because that's fairly close to center. So we're just going to mark it, mark the line, and then drag it on over to the back side here and mark this line. So that's a low on this side. All right, well, it's a couple of days later. My flu is receding slowly, and this weld is driving me absolutely crazy. It's totally in the way of everything I'm trying to do. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this block up onto the table. I'm going to come in and surface this whole piece here in order to get this to lay down at least some kind of flat. So we're going to just drag it over like this. We're going to put a couple of spacers underneath here, put a couple of toe clamps on the back side of this, figure out where this is going to sit, and then space that up too. All right, let's go for the whole guacamole here and see what we can come up with. Well, obviously something is horribly off center here. Although that almost, I mean, it's like 5/1000ths or so edge. It still sits high here though. So, and down over here, we're down below. I think what we want to do is we want to loosen this up, raise this side up maybe by 5/1000ths or so, or maybe even more, something like 10, and make another run at it. Let's do that. All right, well, here's a 15 thousandths feeler gauge. So we'll slide that in there, and that'll give us a little bit of a lift there, and we'll make another run at it and see what we got. There we go. All right. Let's make sure we're square still. Not really. Okay. We're just going to make a fast run across here and see what happens. Almost perfect. So we'll come back and catch this one little edge right there, and we'll have it for this side. Okay. So now let's flip it and do the other side. But we definitely want to get rid of this edge first. There we go. Okay. There we go. Looks pretty good. And actually, this side doesn't look too bad. Well, we'll take it off anyhow. Okay. No, that's about right. All right, so we've got that. It worked just fine. It's below this level here, so we'd step down to the weld, or what's left of the weld. And so now we can square up to this edge here and stand this thing up and make our cut. I was going to put it in the power hacksaw, but you know, it just wasn't going to work, especially with that weld the way it was. And now the weld's gone. Well, we could stand it up. Why not? Okay, so we've got it here. We've got it in the chuck. It's not real stable, but this is a pretty honking piece of meat here. So I'm thinking that the saw blade's going to be okay if we just go real slow and take it real easy, and we just cut straight across. Now we need to find out if this is our line on the lathe, but it may not be the line on the vise. So we've squared up with the line right here. Well, actually we haven't. Let's bring this up just a little bit. Okay, we've squared this up with the top of the saw blade. And now what we're going to do, because sometimes saw blades are a little wonky, flip it over to the other side. Come over to this side. Can you see that? Well, I don't think you can you? There we go. And we look and see how square it is with that line, and my gosh, it is beautifully square. Okay, so we know that our bottom line is equal to the line on the lathe. All right, so let's bring this back to some kind of center here. Bring our chuck or our vise back to center. Lock that baby in. And since squareness is not an important factor here, except for in one dimension, we don't really need to tram the vise in or anything like that. We can just run it like it is. Push it up against the bolts. There we go. That's pretty good. go. And take off our little speed handle and put on the official handle and tighten this sucker up. Okay, we got that in. Now next is getting the right blade on so we don't have to reach so far. And that is going to take a crescent wrench. Let's swing you over to another position. Okay, we're in, we've got the blade in. We're set to go, except we need to get our distance from here to here centered. And let's see how we can do that. I'm thinking the only way to do it without getting everything in the way is to, let's take this in. I mean, it doesn't have to be precision centered. It just has to be fairly accurate. You know, really, in reality, it's a visual thing because all three adjusters adjust to it. It's going a little further. Uh-oh. Well, I'm hitting the quill. So I think I can get halfway in. How far are we getting? Yeah, we can get over halfway in. So this is going to be a long, slow cut. We're going to cut half of this, come around the backside and cut the other half. My God. All right, so we're about halfway there. Let's see what this bottom looks like. It looks like it's a little bit off. So we're going to raise this up just a tad. And bring our calipers in a little bit closer. That might actually do it. Again, it's not a super accurate deal here. Okay, up just a little bit. That's pretty good. And that's a little bit low. Or is it? Oh man, it's so close. Let's see where we're at. Looks like we're sitting just a little bit high on the line, but I think that's going to be okay. We're going to come out. We're going to go all the way to the end here. We're going to come in. Let's come in halfway. All right, a little more than halfway. That gives us plenty of room. Yeah, we're a little more than halfway there. I think we're ready to go. Yeah, that's spinning a little fast for me. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe even a little slower. All right. Hey, Frank. Okay, well, we got this thing rotating about as slow as we can go. And this is rigid. Now what's going to happen, of course, we're going to cut halfway through and then halfway through over here and then come around the backside and cut halfway through back there. But it's going to start getting wobbly at some point, and it could get wobbly right off the bat, and then we're going to have to come in and figure out a way of supporting it. By the time we get halfway through and start coming back, it's going to start get wobbly, and we're going to have to figure out how to support it from that point. But we'll worry about that when we get to it. Let's see what we can do here. It's still traveling a bit fast, but hey, it's what we got. Let's see what happens. Alright, I'm gonna do something first. Make sure we got everything tightened up really good and tight. Yep, that's tight. That's tight. Our gibs want to be at least snug. We're not quite halfway through, so we're going to come further. I don't know. I think that's some pretty hard steel. That could be the reason why that weld came out so funny. So I think we're going to take it over to the power hacksaw and hacksaw it off. This is not cutting. In fact, I think what it did just dulled that edge. All right, so back to the drawing board. All right, we're set. Well, this edge pretty sharp. So let me go get a half round and see if I can straighten it out. All right. One side's done. All right, well, we got this thing split. That was the job yesterday. It's a new day. And now what we need to do is figure out how to get this thing to, let me get over on this side. We're going to figure out how to get this thing to pivot back. And let's see, how can we do that? Well, I was thinking about cutting a half circle here and putting a pivot right in that. But let's have a look at that and see if it's even possible. So that would be the pivot right here. So it would rotate like that. Yeah, it looks like it could be possible. Why not? So what we want to do is we're going to put a piece of steel down the center of this. We're going to cut a groove, run a piece of steel down the center of this, probably put 2 pins in that piece of steel so it's one solid piece, and then do the same thing on this side, except this side will have more of a pivot to it. That could be the problem. But I don't see it as a huge problem. All right, well, let's just see what the pivot's going to look like first. And we need a pair of dividers. Okay. And I'm thinking we just drop a pivot right through the center of this, somewhere right in there, and half of this would be this is 1/690, so that would be a half 345. There's our halfway point, at least as far as I can tell. Yep. So that would mean that our other halfway, well, we don't really need a halfway point there, although we need a piece of material that's going to bridge this gap. So I think that's the next thing, is getting a piece. All right, well, we found ourselves a piece here, and it should work out pretty well. It's a little bit wide, and I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut this arch out of that, and we're just going to throw it on the bandsaw and bandsaw that out, and then just polish it up a little bit and see what we can come up with.
So let's go over to the bandsaw.
Oh, I don't know. The good old Harbor Freight bandsaw, the best in the world. I've had this thing 30 years. Still cutting. Probably put $100,000 worth of blades through this thing. Okay, so we've got that the way we want it, pretty much. Now what we need to do is figure out how to get this thing to rotate and lock. And I'm thinking we're going to go with what we've got here. We need to come up with some kind of circle guide. Alright, I'm going to drop that right in the center there. It's got a little edge on it. Let me go grind that off. Actually, you could probably just sit and file it off. Yeah, it's aluminum. Something like that. I like it. We'll scribe the circle here. Somewhat of a circle, but we can worry about that part later. Now what we want to do is come out and take out that perimeter. And that might actually work as a pretty good, just a general guide. Alright, so we want to take this corner off. This is going to sit like that. This is going to be bolted in place, and probably just one bolt hole would hold it because it's going to have a flat right here. And then this will rotate. It's going to rotate on a pivot of somewhere right in that general area. So there's our rotation. And that should just do it perfectly. So this also wants to have a circle. And a hole. So I'm seeing that we need to set up either a rotary table. I'm thinking maybe we set up the super spacer. Do we want to do that first, or do we want to cut our slots first? I'm thinking slots first. Let's do that. Alright, we're going to take this over, drop it in the vise, and bring you over closer.